While I make every effort to report accurate information, facts in science and medicine are ever changing. I am simply presenting my own summaries and thoughts as a non professional. By listening to this podcast, you agreed not to use the information presented as medical advice to treat any medical condition in yourself or others. Please consult your own physician for any medical issues. Hi, and welcome to episode number 5 of It's Not You, It's Me, a PMDD podcast. I am your host, Christina, and as you may or may not already know, this podcast is dedicated to the topic of premenstrual dysphoric disorder, or PMDD, and all things related. Since I'm still reading my first book about PMDD and can't report on it yet, and I haven't had the time to read more journal articles because my time reading has been spent on that, I thought this would be a nice time to open up to everyone a little bit more. Aside from mentioning some personal experiences here and there within episodes, I've realized I've really not shared too much about how I experienced PMDD or what my journey has been like. Though I was formally diagnosed when I was about 21, I can't really remember things leading up to that. Obviously, I was showing signs of symptoms, and I remember when I flat out mentioned to my gynecologist that about 2 weeks before my period would start, I would really feel angry and would get super bloated and just kind of told her about the things I was feeling, and that opened up the conversation. And then that's when she told me, like, this sounds a lot like this thing that's kind of new, and it's called PMDD. But I am unable to remember when my symptoms first started before that. From what I can remember, they typically start about 2 weeks before my period starts. And the way I'm able to realize, or I notice, like, oh, it's that time, is when I notice I'm more hungry than usual and want things like donuts, cake, ice cream, chocolate, potato chips, french fries, basically anything that would be labeled as unhealthy. I also notice that I start getting snippy with people and have less patience, and I get pissed off at things that normally wouldn't bother me. My pants fit tighter because I'm bloated and my breasts are kind of tender, or just when my behavior doesn't seem normal, that's when I kind of stop and think, like, oh wait, what week is it? Where are we in the month? Now, I've been on some sort of birth control since I was about 20. I'm talking about pills. My doctor had recommended them to me because I had really irregular periods as a teenager. Sometimes I would have 2 periods a month. Sometimes they would last for like 7 days, and they were often pretty heavy. So after talking to her about what was going on, she suggested that being on the pill would be the best thing to help regulate them. Just recently, though, I've come off the pill, and that's because I'm in between refills, and I'm also in between gynecologists. The one I was seeing moved away, and I've not yet established care with another one, so I've not gotten approval for a refill, which is fine, because part of me actually wants to take this time to see how my body does with PMDD and not being on the pill. I know it takes some time for the body to readjust, but I began to wonder if it would maybe make a difference in how I felt. I've been on the pill for about 17 years, so I'm getting to know now how my body works without being on the pill. I have noticed that I don't have a slight nausea anymore that would just kind of randomly hit me. And I don't know if that's related to any of the birth control I've been on, but I feel maybe it was related because I haven't felt it. And I don't know if it's just because I've been having some good months lately since I've been off the pill, but my PMDD hasn't felt as terrible as I know it can be. At least not mood-wise. I still have been a little irritable, but not to the degree I have felt other times. And I've still had some of the physical symptoms, like bloating, breast tenderness, increased intake in food. My cravings with sweet and salty have been pretty intense this month. The other day I bought myself a slice of cake for breakfast. I took that to work. I've snacked on popcorn. I've been craving ice cream and chocolate-covered pretzels, which I actually got yesterday. So the cravings are kind of running amok right now. So I'm kind of looking forward to when I start bleeding, as odd as that sounds. But who knows, maybe next month my PMDD weeks will be as rough as they usually are. I did have a moment last month, though, when I woke up feeling amazing. And I mean, like, noticeably enough that there was a moment where after I opened my eyes, I asked myself, like, why do I feel so great today? Then I got up, went to the bathroom, and was like, oh, that's why. And having that moment just made me realize more wide spectrum of feelings of how I feel when I'm on having my PMDD weeks compared to when I actually start my period. Like, never when I'm having my PMDD weeks do I wake up feeling like, oh, I feel amazing. It's hardly ever happens, if ever. It was only a couple of years ago that I found out PMDD was in the DSM as a mental disorder. Like I mentioned in my last episode, that was, I don't know if I would say a little tough for me, but it kind of made me stop. On one hand, I felt like there was something wrong with me, but on the other hand, I felt like because of its inclusion, it had been acknowledged as a real thing, which of course now I feel differently. I feel like it's a real thing no matter what, whether it is in a scientific book or not. But learning it was in the DSM kind of lit a fire inside me in the way of compelling me to learn more about it. While I would occasionally mention it to friends and family that I have PMDD, I didn't really truly start talking about it until after my DSM discovery. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to give a presentation to my coworkers about it. I not only wanted them to be aware of it and share the information with others, but I also want them to know not to take my symptoms personally if I happen to seem different at work. But I also don't want them to think that I'm using my symptoms as an excuse. The bottom line is I want them to be aware. When I'm at work with my PMDD, I notice I have a harder time staying focused on my work. And because of the irritability and anger I can feel, I usually talk less with people and try to keep to myself a little bit more. I just plug in my headphones, just focus on what I do, and don't really interact with everyone like I normally do. In my circle of friends, I have one friend, my very best friend, that also has PMDD. We met in high school physics class and have remained friends ever since. She went to college and lives on the East Coast and on the West Coast in California. Aside from everyday life, we often check in with each other and support each other throughout our symptoms. So I know how much it can mean to have someone that knows exactly what you're going through, and having that support structure or some sort of support is super helpful and beneficial. And even more so when you have that support from someone who's also going through the same things and knows exactly where you're coming from. And while we support each other, with sincerity, sometimes sending texts to each other like, oh my God, I just want to go lock myself in the bathroom and cry, we also try to find humor in it. I think that's just how we both work. It's definitely one way I work. My way of dealing with a lot of things is just finding the silver lining, finding the humor in it. Like I will text her saying, God, I would stab someone for a slice of chocolate cake right now. And even if you don't know someone within your own social group, finding someone on a forum or some other means, someone you can maybe email with and check in with, can help. She's the only one I know that has PMDD, whereas when I talk to other women, it sometimes goes the route of them responding with like, oh, I think I have that too. And then I start going more in depth about the symptoms and kind of what it's about, what you need to be diagnosed. And then it turns into them saying like, oh, maybe I don't have that. And I kind of notice the shift of them. I don't even know how to describe it, but their facial expression seems to change when they start to get a better understanding of what I go through as I'm describing these symptoms and what they feel like. Like I get this kind of almost sympathetic look, not a look of pity, but just a sympathetic look of like, oh my God, I'm so sorry you have to go through that. But that was all the more reason for me wanting to become knowledgeable enough to spread awareness and to have the tools to talk to others about it. And this week is when I'll be giving my own little presentation to them about PMDD at one of our staff meetings in anticipation of April being PMDD Awareness Month. And I feel like if one of them goes home, talks to a parent, a sister, a brother, a cousin, another friend about what PMDD is, then from there, awareness just kind of spreads, and I feel like I'm doing my part. Since I've not ever formally tracked my symptoms, I thought of starting there just to visually see what's happening with me and my moods and my emotions. Most trackers I found, though, only ask for symptoms. And what I mean by that is there's no other context, like what's happening in life right now or what's happening around you. And I feel like that would be an important thing to know as well. Like, yes, maybe I noted I was tired and irritable, but maybe that's also because I stayed up late playing video games or something, got to bed late, didn't get enough sleep. or maybe there's a really stressful project going on at work. While it's important to know where in the menstrual cycle these things are happening as far as the symptoms, I think it would also be beneficial to add environmental context as well, just to kind of help get a better idea of what's happening and to even identify triggers. Like, okay, when this is happening, you seem to be really stressed and not sleeping well. I think it gives a better picture of mental health and finding those triggers and times where things are stressful. One thing that's been in the back of my mind since my last episode is the idea of culture and menstruation. And it made me think of this documentary that's on Netflix. And if you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. It's short. It's, I think, less than an hour. It's called Period, End of Sentence. And it's set in rural India. And the women that they show, like there's this one woman that stopped going to school because it was hard for her to go home and change clothes while she was menstruating. Some of the women had never even seen a pad before or knew what it was. And many couldn't even say the word period without giggling or being embarrassed or shy. And this documentary, it supports a thing called the Pad Project, which provided them a pad machine where they could not only make pads to provide for themselves, for each other, for women in their community, but it also provided jobs for the women. And one woman that they showed, she looked kind of elderly, I don't know, maybe 60s, and that was her first job in life. That's what she was doing. But it did get me thinking of my own culture. I'm Mexican, my family's Mexican. I was born in the United States, as were my parents. But I remember my mother pulling out the encyclopedia or some sort of book with the graph of the menstrual cycle. I'm sure you've seen it, you know which one I'm talking about. And that was how I remember her explaining my period. And at that time, I have no idea what the hell she was talking about. I have no idea what that graph meant in words like ovulation and things. I was clueless. And I can't even remember if my mother even really explained to me about pads and tampons. And this is just my mother, because of course my dad, I don't think even wanted to go near the topic of menstruation with me. When I got my period, I think I was still in middle school. So this was, I don't know, 13, 14. And I remember being in class. I went to the restroom. I noticed something going on. I wasn't quite clear what was happening, but I went home. And my mom kind of found out what was happening, and she gave me a hug that I was a woman now, and I felt really embarrassed. But aside from that, like, I don't remember a lot of discussion around menstruation or about women's health. And I think just the culture, it maybe being more seen as the woman's position to talk to a daughter about that, not a man's. Like, I would never picture my father talking to me about those things. But my mother, I don't really remember having discussions about health and all. And it just got me thinking about menstruation in other cultures and what it's like and how it's viewed. And it's something I want to look into, because I've noticed as I'm looking through all these journal articles on these studies and clinical trials and such, they're from all over. They're from India, they're from Hong Kong. And I'm curious to know how other cultures view menstruation and approach the topic of that. So for the next episode, I'll have been done with the book that I'm reading, The PMDD Phenomenon by Dr. Dell and Carol Speck. And I'll also have an update on how my presentation went at work to my coworkers. And I just want to thank you all again for listening and offering your words of support and encouragement for this. I hope it's something that will continue to grow. I have my list of topics that are ongoing, of ideas and future episodes and things I can do. I welcome any suggestions, any comments, feedback as well. It is your kind words that help encourage me to keep doing this, keep reading, doing research, and spreading awareness. So again, thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll talk again next time.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.